Hey friends, welcome back. So today we're going to start with the next chapter, that is Introduction to Software Testing. But before starting with this, let us just quickly revise what we did in the earlier chapter. Okay, so what we studied in the second chapter was development of software application. So basically the software development life cycle and the different phases like requirements, analysis and design, then implementation, testing, deployment, maintenance. Okay, so we studied each of these phases. Then we studied the different activities of each of these phases. The deliverable, what is the deliverable? So it's nothing but the outcome of that particular phase. Okay, so we studied SDLC in detail. Okay, then we studied what is the entry and exit criteria for each and every phase. Okay, then we've gone through the project team organization. That means the different people who are working so that the application can be delivered, right from the business analyst, the developers, the architect, the testers, the developers, and the end user. Okay, then we have seen the challenges that we face or that the team actually faces while in the SDLC or while developing the application, and because of those challenges, okay, there are issues in the application, and those issues are nothing but bug or a defect. Okay, and to identify the defect, what we have to do is called as software testing. Okay, so this is the entire brief of the earlier chapter. Okay, now let us just move to the third chapter here, that is Introduction to Software Testing. Okay, now we have seen the definition of software testing, which was nothing but it's a process which helps to identify the correctness, completeness, security and quality of the application. To get this definition in detail, you can just click on the link suggested so that you can watch the earlier video, right? So yes, it's nothing but a process which is going to help identify the correctness, completeness, security and quality of the developed application. Now correctness means whether each and every requirement is been implemented properly or not, whether all completeness means whether all the requirements are delivered or not, whether the application is secured or not, that means only authorized users can use the application or not, and the quality of the application is good and it is satisfying all the customer requirements. Okay, now here in this topic we are going to study the different tasks of testing. Okay, then who all are the participants of the testing. Now in SDLC we have seen that there is only a tester who is actually involved in testing, but that's not the case. Each and every person involved in the development of the application, okay, is involved in some or the other form of testing. That we are going to study here in participants of testing. Okay, and then we are going to see what is V model. Okay, and V model is divided into verification and validation, and then we are going to see verification and validation. Okay, and there are different types. So walkthrough and review for verification. There is one more type that is called as inspection. Okay, let me just write it down. Okay, and then in validation you have unit testing, integration testing, system testing and user acceptance testing. Okay, so we are going to cover each and every topic here. Now there are a lot of topics to cover here, so I guess I'll require a couple of more videos. It cannot be completed in one single video, so I'll see how much or how many videos I can make on this. Okay, let's just start with it and we'll see how it goes. Okay, so the first topic of this chapter is obviously tasks of testing. Okay, now we have seen the definition and we need to do the testing. Okay, now as a tester, what are the different tasks of a testing? So first of all, it is identifying the defects as early as possible. Now you might say that we have studied SDLC and then we can do testing only after the development is done. So how is it possible to identify the defects as early as possible, okay, or from the requirement phase itself? Okay, now that we are going to study in V model. Okay, but that is one of the tasks. Let's leave it as it is, and then we are going to come back with that line in V model. Okay, then after identifying the defects, whenever in whichever phases you identify those defects, you have to report those defects. Okay, so once the reporting is done, okay, and once it is expected that the developer is going to fix that issue, okay, now once those issues are fixed, we need to check whether the correction is done properly or not. Okay, so that is one of the important tasks of testing. Now not only that, we need to also check that because of those correction, whether there are no new defects. Okay, that means whether it is having an impact from the other working functionality or not. Okay, so these are these 4 important tasks that we have to perform as a tester. Okay, I hope this topic is clear, small topic. Then we can move to participants of testing. Right, now each and every person here in the development team is involved in actually testing processes. Okay, so right from your development team, your testing team, okay, your technical architect, business analyst, and your end user, so everyone is involved actually in testing. Okay, now what exactly these people do as a testing? So firstly, the development team are involved in testing the program which they develop. Okay, now it is also called as white box testing, okay, or it is also called as unit testing. We are going to study unit testing in detail in the coming topic in vModel itself. Okay, so yes, so what development team is going to do is whatever codes they are going to develop, they are going to test those codes. Okay, and they will check whether those particular functionality is behaving correctly or not. Okay, if not, they'll debug what are the issues are and they'll fix those issues. Okay, then obviously testing team, now we as a testing team, we are going to check all the component of the application. Okay, now we are going to test the application as a whole. Okay, so as a system we are going to test the application whether it is working as per the user expectations or not. Okay, then what exactly testing activity architect is going to perform? He is going to check the correctness of the implementation of the architect or the technology that is developed by the development team, or the codes that is basically written by the development team. So he is the one who's going to actually do code review of the application. Again, now what is a review? That is again a verification technique that we'll study in the later half of the sessions. Okay, so as of now, let's leave that the technical architect is a person who's actually going to perform a testing activity which is called as a code review. Okay, now the next is a business analyst. A business analyst is the person who's going to ensure whether all the business requirement is been implemented or not. Okay, in short, he is the person who's actually going to help the end user in user acceptance testing. Okay, and obviously the customer or the end user, he's the actual one who's going to perform the user acceptance testing. Again, we'll study what is user acceptance testing, what is alpha testing and beta testing. Okay, but these are the participants. So each and every individual working in the team has some testing activities. Okay, and at different levels they are going to perform their testing activities. So it's not only that the tester is going to do the testing activities, but each and every person has to perform certain testing activities. Okay, now let us just start with vModel. Okay, now vModel is nothing but it's an extension of software development lifecycle. But there is a drawback in software development lifecycle, or basically waterfall model, that you cannot start the testing activities before development. That means unless and until each phase is complete, you cannot start the next phase. So testing activities comes after development phase. So you cannot start the testing activities before development phase is completed. Okay, now that's a drawback, right? So to overcome this drawback, we move with vModel. So it's nothing but the extension of the software development life cycle. Okay, now it may be called as a vModel probably because it's shown it this way. Okay, let me just show you the picture of vModel. Okay, now probably it is drawn that way, so the names is coming from it's called as a vModel. Okay, now V stands for basically verification and validation. Now in simple English term, verification and validation literal meaning is pretty much the same. Okay, but in testing terms they are completely different. Okay, Now we'll study in detail what verification and validation means. Okay, but firstly let's just go through this diagram of V model. Okay, now this is the left arm of the V model. Okay, and this is the right arm of the V model. So wherein the requirement analysis, system design, architecture design, module design. Okay, now that is the left arm. Okay, and unit testing, integration testing, system testing and acceptance testing, that is the right arm of the V model. Okay, now on the left arm, what the tester is going to perform is called as the verification activities, and on the right arm all the activities are called as validation activities. Okay, now deliverables of each phase of software development lifecycle is used as an input for validation activity. Okay, now what does that means? Okay, now see, the requirement analysis phase. Now what is the deliverable of requirement analysis phase? So we have actually got the requirement SRS document from the customer, isn't it? So that is going to be the input of requirement analysis phase, right? Now this requirement phase corresponds to acceptance testing, that is the user acceptance testing. So that means if I am the user, if I am giving a particular SRS document to the development team or to the business analyst, okay, when I receive the application for testing, I am going to check as per the requirement that I have given, isn't it? Right. So that is why there is this arrow in between which is saying acceptance test design. Okay, so this SRS corresponds to acceptance testing. Okay, now similarly, so system design, once we get the requirement, we do the analysis and design phase, isn't it? So we create a lot of documents, right? So one of them is obviously system design document, wherein we create the entire system. Okay, now that system design act as an input to the system testing phase. Okay, now if you are seeing as a tester where we are going to work, so we as a tester, we are going to work in this system testing phase. Okay, wherein we are going to test the application as a whole system. Okay, then the next is architectural design, that is going to be an input to integration testing. Okay, now architecture design means obviously we have seen the architectural plan, okay, or basically the integration design, wherein you are going to describe how the individual modules are going to interact with each other. Okay, so that design document, okay, that is going to act as an input to this integration testing. Okay, so we are going to check whether this application or whether the individual modules are working according to the design document that we have created in the architecture design phase. Okay, and then obviously module design. So individual modules, okay, or small codes that are written, those are nothing but unit testing, units actually, and we are going to test those units in this unit testing phase. Okay, and the last topic is coding, where actual coding by the developer is done. Okay, so in the left arm we are just creating the documents. Okay, on the right arm, once the coding is done, we are actually going to validate those things. That means we are going to actually test the application as per the documents created in the left arm. Okay, so left arm is nothing but the verification arm, and the right arm is nothing but the validation arm. Okay, now there are like as I've said, there is a drawback in SDLC, or you can say waterfall model, that you cannot start the testing activities before the development phase. Okay, now to remove that drawback, we are following these models. Okay, so the testing activities can start from the requirement phase itself. Okay, now that requirement phase or the activities that you do is called as verification. Okay, so each and every document that you create has to go through a process called as verification. Okay, now what actual verification is, we are going to study in the next slides. Okay, but this is called as verification, and on the right hand we do validation. So whatever actual code that is developed, we are going to perform the validation activities on the same. Okay, So for each of these phases, there is a separate test plan that is created. So there is a unit test plan created for unit testing. Then there is an integration test plan created. Okay, and obviously the reports as well. So unit level testing report, then integration testing report, system test plan and system test report, user acceptance test plan and user acceptance testing report. So here, so now acceptance testing corresponds to the requirements given by the customer. So it is also sometimes called as business requirement specification document. Okay, so system design is we have seen corresponds to SRS. So we as a tester, we studied the document or do the testing as per the SRS. Okay, architecture design, or sometimes it is also called as high level designs, wherein the architectural plan and the database design documents are created, and we see that the integration testing, that is the testing between the whether the applications modules are performing properly in sync or not. Okay, so that is in correspondence to the architectural plan as well as sometimes the database design. And module design, maybe it is also, or sometimes it is also called as low level design documents or low level design phase. So wherein the module specification or the program specification documents that you create in analysis and design phase in the second chapter, and that corresponds to unit testing. Okay, now I hope this V model is clear. Okay, now we'll see a few advantages of V model. Okay, so V model, as I said, that it is an extension of software development life cycle itself. Okay, so the advantage is nothing but it's simple to use. Okay, and also the testing activities like planning, test designing, they all start once we get the requirement document itself. So we do not have to wait till the development is done and then start the testing phase, but the testing can be started as soon as we get the requirement. So testing is started as early as possible, that we have just seen as one of the tasks of our testing phase. So that is why we have a lot of time in our hand. Okay, also if there are any corrections, we can immediately implement those corrections, so they are not passed on to the next level. So even before coding, if there are any issues, we can correct those issues. Okay, that is what is called as proactive defect tracking, because we are identifying the defect at an early stage, which is because of those the defects are not passed on to the next level, that is the downward flowing of the defects is avoided. Okay, now this type of model is basically can be implemented only if the project is small. Okay, because in huge projects where the complexity is huge, you cannot just go on verifying the documents, each and every document. That it become a complicated job. The complexity increases when the project is big. When there is small project, you can definitely implement this V model. So that is one of the disadvantage. Okay, why? Because it is obviously rigid and least flexible. Okay, also now we have seen that the application is developed in the coding phase itself, right? So in the implementation or coding phase, so there is no early prototype, okay, which you can which you can get in the prototype model. That is one of the software development lifecycle model. Okay, now if any changes happen in midway, okay, then the test documents along with individual documents needs to be updated. Now again, that is a tedious job to update all these documents. Okay, so what happens is that you need to freeze the design. Okay, and again that makes it rigid. Okay, if you freeze the design, then you won't make any changes unless that entire release is completed. So these are the advantages and disadvantages. So obviously the V model should be used for small to medium projects, okay, where the requirements are clearly defined. If the requirements are not defined properly, then it becomes a tedious job to implement V model. Okay. Also, if there are some huge ample technical requirements, then it is very difficult. Okay, because then you require a lot of technical expertise in this implementation. Okay, I hope you have liked this video. We'll continue with verification and validation in the next video. If you have liked this video, please do like, share and subscribe. Okay, see you soon. Thank you.